Hola, hola. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, or buenas noches, depending on when you're watching this. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining us on Tech and Tequila. My name is Kat Lopez Shelby, and I am your techie chica, and I am here to tell you about some of the latest trends in tech, and if not, do some great storytelling, give you some examples of ways to navigate through your business technology stack.
Welcome, and bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, Tech and Tequila. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kat Lopez Shelby, and I'm the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions. But more importantly, you're here for Tech and Tequila, where we learn a lot about tech, and we may have some nice tequila drinks while we're at it. If you're new here, Tech and Tequila is all about everything technology based for your business. So what that means is we have suppliers on here to talk about how they can help you grow your business. We, have mindset coaches on here talking about how to help you grow your business. We're all about business and basically introducing you to different suppliers and different ways that help you within your business.
So here we are, and I say this all the time. So if you make this a drinking game, since it's a tech and tequila, we're going to take a moment to talk about how we prevent FUD. And then also, we're going to talk about the latest cyber breach that we heard about this week. So it's hot off the presses. Anything that's hot off the presses is subject to change exactly what it says. And we don't know all the intricate details about it, but I'm sure that more news will coming out. So first off, if you don't know what FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I am a strong believer in the way that you, as a business owner, as somebody who's in charge of business's tech stack, as the nominated person in the office that is in charge of the tech stack, how do we stay out of that? And that is to plan, that is to educate, and that is to know that your plan is going to work. So let's take a little side note. We'll come back to that here in a minute. But let's talk about the latest cyber incident to happen. So I won't say if you're living under a rock because this just happened, but CDK had a cyber attack and it shut down auto dealerships across the US. Now, why is that important? Well, first off, because hey, if you're trying to buy a car and their backend software is not working, that is not a great experience. So let's start out. Who is CDK? So that's a company that provides auto dealerships across the US with software for managing sales and other services. And they were shut down for a third straight day as of today, which is Friday. I'm recording this on 6/21 after cyber attacks crippled the platform. So, what does that mean? So, this outage is roughly disrupting about 15,000 car sellers that depend on their dealer management to run their businesses. This includes sales. Sometimes we're going to take it back in the little time machine time. Some dealerships have employees resorting to pen and paper to handle transactions, but most have said they've ground to a halt. So anybody who has worked in auto sales, just think about not being able to sell cars, especially as you get into the tail end of the month. So CDK has not at this time indicated when systems will be back up and running, but they have suggested that this outage could last for days, several days. So think about that one for a minute. Um, Basically, CDK has said they are actively investigating this incident, and out of an abundance of caution and concern for their customers, they've shut down most of their systems and are working diligently to get them up as quickly as possible. Basically, they've said that they experienced an initial cyber attack on that they became aware of this last Wednesday. On Thursday afternoon, they stated that their systems again were offline after they suffered another one. So, they proactively shut down their systems. They said, we're not, they haven't given us exactly what has transpired or why it transpired. But what they have said is, we did this to basically take care of our clients. Now, I know I've talked about this a lot, but let's go on a little bit of a moment saying, hey, why is this important? Why is this happening? So the number of cyber attacks have been on the rise. I know that I've talked about this on several of the different podcasts, but with more than 3,200 data breaches in 2023, that was a jump of 78% from the prior year, according to one of the new studies from SOAX. These breaches have impacted more than 65 million victims in 2023. And so when we say victims, maybe that's a harsh word, but people that have been impacted. So we've had AT&T get impacted. We now have CDK, which is basically saying this is a software company. It's impacting dealerships, which in a roundabout way is impacting customers. And you may wonder, why am I saying this? Well, the reason that I'm talking about this is because in order to not have FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You want to make sure that number one, you educate yourself. Number one, that you have a plan. And what does that mean? Have a plan in place. Well, obviously, as we're looking at what some dealerships have resorted to, their plan in place is to use pens and paper and go like old school transactions. So they went in their time machine back in the day. But let's talk about how this works for you in particular. And depending on what business you're in, depends on what that's going to look like. What is the importance of CDK and why am I talking about it today? Well, yes, it's, something that's hot off the news press. It's definitely having an effect on people, but what my goal here on the podcast is to always educate you about what's going on, to look at ways to prevent these things from happening, and to help you and your business be able to, if something does happen, have a plan in place and be up and going. So let's talk about some of the things that have happened. Ransomware is on the rise. One of the biggest things that you can do is have a culture that, you know, encourages cybersecurity safe practices, so to speak. And what does that mean? That means that your first thing that you can do is what's between the floor and the computer, or the floor and the device. And that's yourself, that's your employees. And what I mean by that is that means, yes, you want to put your stuff in place. You want to have a firewall. You want to have email security. But let's say something gets through. Have you trained your employees, and do you yourself know what not to click on, what you can click on? And the side note of that is, how often are you running simulations? And a simulation can basically be like, how often are you sending emails out to see if your employees are clicking on these things and like click, click, even though you feel like, no, we shouldn't do this. You know, how do we protect? And a side note to that is ways to protect yourself and ways to look forward is, if something was to happen, it's what do we do? And have we practiced this so we know, one, who to contact, two, what do we need to do? And by what do we need to do? Is there a plan in place? That means if this is a device, are we taking that device completely off the network? Are we unplugging? Are we sending? Are we shutting down? Are we deactivating if it's a particular person's profile that is having the issues? Like, all of these things come into play. And so, those are some of the things that you can do to prepare. Obviously, there's more steps than just that, and there's more things to look at when it comes to your cybersecurity posture. But that's just the beginning. Things that I do like about this story right now, and I say I like maybe a strong, but is that number one, CDK, once it happened, immediately took their systems down offline. I'm not sure they had a big choice about that because we don't know exactly what transpired as of yet. But the point is, they did take their systems, they did notify their customers, and they have set up, for the record, if you are one of the people affected by this, they have set up a hotline that you can call in. I mean, obviously, the things that are frustrating about this is it's one more incident that has happened. So there we go. So this is a short and sweet one. I always say that being proactive is better than reactive. All right. I would not be doing my due diligence without telling you that there's no time like the present to have a cybersecurity assessment evaluation. Depending on your regulatory and compliance requirements, there are lots of companies and lots of different industries that are required to have a third party assessment at minimum once a year. And what that means is, if you have employees that function for your cyber team, you need to make sure that you're having an outside entity. If you already have a third party, you actually have to have a different party. So if you have an MSP right now, or you have an MSSP that you're working with, you actually have to go outside of that and get another. And here's the thing: if you love your MSP that you're working with, you love your internal employees, All that this is going to do is maybe find some things that need to be patched, some things that need to be looked at that can be approved on. Well, this was a short and sweet one and to the point. Um, it's late breaking news. I hope that we'll have more. Definitely follow me on our social media. So that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook that we have, and we will get everything taken care of. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day and have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.